and one could probably talk forever, but we will try to summarize it in a brief way. Uh, First of all, concept of God depends on the what you want to believe. If you are conventional religion, then God is considered the power, and they have given a Saguna God has a features like Vishnu or Shiva or Krishna and all these. So if you believe that God, then you have got that's called the conventional religion, where God is separate. Because the problem with human being is that we what we see with our eyes and we can hear and smell, that's all we believe in. Anything this is beyond our eyes, we don't believe. So everything we are trying to say what the God look like. So if you take the God as a separate entity, then you can present the God. So you go to temple, there's a image of God, and you think this is God. So you believe, and I mean, you develop the faith in that, and miracles happen because the power is same. You're going through the belief system. You believe that there is a God, and I'm He's a creator of me and the entire world. So that's the way concept is, which is called conventional religion. So conventional religion. So everyone who falls in that group, whether it's a Christianity or Islam or Jainism or Buddhism, there's some concept of God, whether Sagun God or Nirgun, God with attributes or God without attributes. The concept is there. There is a power, and you are trying to visualize that power. Now that Patanjali Yoga has a different view. Patanjali says that there is a consciousness which is eternal, and there's a prakriti, nature, which is independent and eternal. They have no beginning, no end, and when they come together, then the life is created, and that's how you create. So there is the this is human body, and consciousness that you God is in behind all the five layers, which is defined as the five layers of the stool sharir of which is called Annamaya Kosh. Behind the Annamaya Kosh is the Pranamaya Kosh. Pranamaya Kosh, beyond that is the Pranamaya is a vital force which is running through our body and makes it vital. And prana word is used to show that you have got a consciousness inside. So that's the way second level is. Then behind that, and as you go inside, they all get more and more subtle. This body you can see, conscious that prana you can feel it when you breathe. You feel alive. You're living being. You're feeling. Then you go beyond that because mind is there, manomaya kosh, which is observing the breathing. It can observe the breathing. It can see the body. So that is and mind gets more subtle. Then you go to Vigyanmaya Kosh, which is intellect. But intellect is watching all three, everything. Body, breathing, and your mind is watches everything. And so the Vigyanmaya Kosh is behind all the three layers. And beyond the Vigyanmaya Kosh is the Anandmaya Kosh, which is the causal body, which is from where the whole thing came out. So you can imagine there are five layers behind in front of the consciousness. So consciousness is hidden inside in your intellect. Behind the intellect, consciousness is there. And so they say that in order for you to have a vision of God, you've got to you have to transcend all the five layers. Then you will be able to see. And he has given step by step procedure how to meditate and how to get that far into the consciousness so that you can vision up consciousness. And people who have come out, they have come out with experience of similar kind, whether it's a Christianity or Islam or Judaism. Everyone has come out with similar experiences of burning bushes or sound. In Bible, they said in the beginning there was a word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So so when you go beyond the mind, then there's complete silence. There's nothing there. In silence, you will hear all the sound that is representative of God. So there's a audio, vision of the audio perception of the God. And then when you go into deep samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, then you have the full vision of the that consciousness. That's the way Patanjali Yoga treats, and it takes you, and that's why Patanjali Yoga is very systematic. It takes you from step by step how to sit in the certain posture where you can meditate. What are the different things you have to develop in order to meditate, and and then what do you expect, and what are the distractions of the mind, and how to overcome them. And we will go through them. But since this question was raised, what is God? So we will just be taking a little detour, talking about the little concept of God. Now, the final version, all these things, when it comes to modern science or into the 21st century, people are questioning everything because science is so developed. They are looking into the consciousness in laboratory, trying to analyze the mind. So now they are questioning that that God, if I can't, God is supposed to be everywhere, but why can't I see it? God, if God is everywhere, inside me and in you, everywhere, why can't I see God? So that question comes. So these question, the conventional religion says you will see God when you go to heaven, and when you go to heaven after death, you're not coming back in the same form. So you can't complain that I didn't see God or I saw God. So they are safe because after that, who knows what happens. So that Vedanta is the ultimate explanation. It explains everything. It says you don't have to believe anything. You have to experience the God in you, and you will convince yourself that there's God, and you will realize God, what God is, feels like. So you can realize God, and they give examples of day-to-day experience. What when you see something, we'll talk about how you perceive God. So they're given 3 or 4 ways of looking at, the you give you the perspective of how to look for God. First of all, they say, and we will also talk about Taittiriya Upanishad, which is addressing about God, what God looks like, and this is very profound, and you will enjoy listening to that. If we can enough time today, we will do it. Otherwise, we'll continue in the next one. This is very, very good. And Vedanta, this Upanishad, describes the God in a very, very logical way. And you will all, as a scientist or as an engineer or as a scholar, you will see the logic, and it will answer all your questions. There's nothing left to believe. So, first of all, they say that subject and object. The subject is looking at the objects. So the objects are more, many. The looker or seer is only one. So when you open your eyes, you're seeing a lot of objects in front of you, but you are only you are the only one looking at it. So that's the difference, seer and the seen. The next one is that the object you're looking at, the change. If you move around, you see a different objects, but you are still the same. So the seer, there's no change. The objects change. So you're seeing many changes, and you're seeing the object, many objects, and so, and then also the objects and the object and the seer, they are two separate things. Object and seer and seen can't be one. They have to be two separate pieces. So this is three logic. So you can see you are the seer and you are seeing everything. So this is the first level. They are distinguishing what you're seeing as an object and what the seer is. And you have to keep in mind that logic. The seer can see everything, object cannot see back. If you look at your hand, for example, who is looking at? Hand is looking at you, or you are looking at the hand? You are looking at the hand. Hand can't say, I'm looking at you. So the consciousness is not in the hand, but behind your in the intellect and all that. So they are saying that the object cannot look back on you, but you are looking at the object. You know what the object looks like. So now the next step is that if you now you're seeing the now eyes are the ones which are looking at the objects. Now let's go one more step behind now. That eyes you can feel in your mind. Mind understand eyes, what eyes are. You can ask the eyes to be closed, open. So the eyes are under observation and by the mind. So mind can see. See means the not in the terms of just like eyes are seeing the object. Mind is observing within the mind that eyes are there. Eyes are closed, open. You can feel it. So object eyes are your object right now, and mind is the looker, seer. Now and mind has all the now if you go to intellect, then mind is the object now. Mind has emotions, thoughts, all these things are there. And mind is, and the intellect is observing. You know your thoughts, you know your emotions. So who is watching it? The intellect is watching it. And if you go one more step beyond the intellect, which is then some consciousness behind the intellect knows your decision making. Intellect is supposed to be the cognition, making judgment, making decisions, saying that I want to do this or that. That judgment or in making decisions is intellect, and you are aware of that. Some faculty beyond intellect is aware of that. So you can see that by logic you are not any of those, because the seer and the seen object can be same. They can't be together. They are two separate things. So if you keep going back, you're beyond the intellect, and which is and beyond intellect is silence. So that's why you can see the now this doesn't explain how do I see God. The problem with this, we are trying to bring God in front of you, but God is the one. You are the consciousness, and that is God. You can't see yourself because you are the subject, and you're trying to bring God in front of you. For faith base, this works because God is separate from you. So you bring the image of God and you say this is God. But if you are the consciousness cannot make itself as an object. Then it won't be a consciousness itself. So that's where the problem is. And so this can be only resolved by his testimony, which is our scriptures, that Taittiriya Upanishad. And I will read some of the lines, and we will discuss that in a minute. Now, this is a Taittiriya Upanishad is a very small Upanishad. It has 3 chapters, and each chapter has some lessons. And this is the chapter 2, first lesson. And here it says Brahmavid apnoti param. Brahm is consciousness, which is God, and self, whatever you want to give a name. Atman, God, or Brahman, Brahma, same thing. So that's a Brahmavid. Anyone who knows, who realizes Brahm, apnoti param, achieves the highest. When you realize Brahm, you achieve the highest. That means you will go, and now they will explain what is highest and what is Brahm. Now the question is, what is Brahm or Brahman, and what is highest? What do you mean by highest? There are two questions hidden there. Then he says, Tadesha Abhyukta. Tadesha means using this fact that realizing Brahm, you will achieve the highest. If you take this fact, then this is declared, and then is defining Brahm. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahm. Satya means truth or reality. Jnanam is knowledge. Anantam is infinity, infinite. That is what Brahm is, and we will discuss that. How do you explain that? So, the this is the three attributes, if you want to call. It's not the quality of Brahm. Brahm has to be in reality. It exists. It has to be jnanam. It has to be knowledge, or it has to be consciousness. And ananta means it includes everything, infinite. Two things now. Let's discuss that. And then he goes further. Yo vid nihitam guyam parme byoman. He who knows this, Bhita means treasured, in the cave of intellect. In the cave of intellect, which is where you will find the consciousness. And then we will go into the here. So there are two things here we will discuss. One is that how do you define God, which is three qualities: Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Satyam, reality, knowledge or consciousness, and infinity. Now let's take the infinity first. Infinity, see, infinity would be the opposite of finite. So if you see anything in the material world, it is finite. You take a house is a finite. It has a beginning, and on one side it's surrounded by two sides, all four sides. Within that walls is the house. You take a chair. Chair has boundaries all around. You take human body. Is a it has a boundary. Beyond this, you don't exist. So in the material world, everything is finite. So the God has got to be infinite, because if you draw a circle, within the circle is a finite. Beyond the circle is infinite. So if you talk of the finite, infinite has to be there. Everything, every time you use duality, one aspect is there, the other aspect has to be there. Man, woman, day, night. So if you say finite, infinite has to be there. So if you draw a circle, within the circle there's a finite area. So outside the circle is infinite. So in the material in universe, what we see as an object, they're all finite. So consciousness has to be, or the Brahma has to be completely infinite. The second point, that condition, is that if you look at the chair, if chair is here, chair can't be other place. So it has to, if it is here, it can't be there. If it is there, it can't be here. So that is another limitation. In the material world, every object has a place. So if it is in here, it can't be there. If you are here in listening to me, you can't be. And a class is, for example, chair. Chair is made of wood. Wood, there are a lot of, there wood is there. There's a iron is there. So there are different pieces of the items. Every item has a unique, and each unique item can create more objects. Like, for example, chair, the wood. The essence of chair is wood. Chair can't exist without wood. Table can't exist without wood. So what is a common feature of the chair and table and your desk, for example, or your door? They are common. Substratum is wood. Wood can exist on its own, but door can't exist. If you take the wood out of the door won't exist. So you can see that as soon as you take the substratum out of the picture, gold, for example, you take gold and necklace and ring and earring, for example, they're all gold. Now, without gold, they don't exist. If you say that I have a necklace, if you melt it, what will happen? It will become gold. So can the necklace exist on its own without a substratum? Gold can exist, but necklace have only name and form. When gold is designed to become a necklace, it has taken a shape of necklace, and you calling it, giving a name. But but necklace itself doesn't exist without gold. So the substratum has to be there. Then rest everything is name and form. You're looking at the things and they are making. So this is a place. So there are three conditions for finite things in the world. One is a place. If it is here, it can't be there. Time, it is here. If it is here right now, it can't be there. And third thing is, if it is one item, then it can't be other item. But so all these opposite of these things is the infinity, that infinite, that it has to be everywhere. That means is a all pervasive, eternal, and everywhere. Here, there's a gold. There are two different things. Here, if it has to be completely opposite of this is limited thing. Unlimited would be that pervades everything. So that consciousness has to be in everything. So which is called non-dual. That means only if the consciousness exists, nothing else exists. Everything has to be a byproduct of the consciousness. So that is the second level. And then so God or Brahman is the one which is infinite, which pervades everything. And now the question comes: how did we come about? Now the creation will come. So we will talk about just in a briefly, and then we'll discuss the entire universe creation in our next talk. Now, the consciousness is the one which was there before, and from the consciousness came out the sky or the ether, which is the starting point, which is very subtle. You can't see ether, which is sky. You can't see the space. So space came out, and then along with the time. So then, as soon as the space and time came, the entire material world starting point is, that was the starting point for the entire universe, because in entire universe everything is time and space and action. So everything is bound by the three: action, time, and space. So these things they created, and from the ether, the next grows the element that came out was the air, which has a touch of smell. Now ether has a quality of sound. Without ether, you can't hear the sound. So for sound, the ether is there, and if you have a ether, then you can play some music here, and you can hear. Then which is subtle. Next, the air. Air brought the sense of touch. Without the air, you won't feel the touch. And then came the fire. Fire has a quality of light and heat. And then came the water. Water has a quality of taste. And then came the earth, which has a quality of smell. So these are the five basic elements. They make the entire universe, including our body. So uh, we will discuss this more in our next one, and we will just leave it as at this point. That because this topic is too abstract and too wide to cover in everything in one session. And if you have any question, we will try to address that question based on what we have talked about. Otherwise, we will try to go into our yoga practice. And remember this: that the bottom line is, in your concept of God, keep in mind the two things, important things, is seer and seen. They can't be together. They can't be same. They are two different things. And consciousness is the one which makes you see, do everything that you're doing. Consciousness is the seer. Seer cannot become the object. What we are trying to do, because we think this body is me and eyes are me, we are trying to objectify the consciousness. We are trying to objectify what is the seer. That can't happen. So that's why there is a dilemma for the mind of the people, that I want to see God or power, what you're trying to tell me, but you can't see because that power is you. So you can't see, you can't put you see, be the seer and the seen at the same time. So since you are seer, you can't be seen. Everything else is a object for the. So I will leave at that, and we will discuss in the next some more points on the consciousness of that is truly you are.